Welcome to the SSI Orbit podcast, a forum where we explore the ever-growing ecosystems of self-sovereign identity. And I'm your host, Mathieu Glaude. In today's podcast, I speak with Kudra, Chief Information Officer at esatus. esatus is a German consultancy with over 20 years of experience in information security, with focuses on identity and access, governance, risk and compliance, and more. More recently, esatus has made significant investments in self-sovereign identity, deploying real-world SSI solutions across various industries, and they've made it quite easy to work alongside existing identity and access management solutions. Now, in this conversation, Andre and I talk about how he got into self-sovereign identity and how he looks at it from an InfoSec perspective. We talk about how verifiable credentials could play in concert with existing enterprise systems. We talk about how SSI fits nicely within zero trust models. We talk about low-hanging fruits for enterprises to use SSI today, and we also touch upon what the German ecosystem looks like and how they look at self-sovereign identity. Enjoy the conversation. Okay, we're now recording. Hey, Andre, how's it going?
Excellent, Matthew. I'm having a great start of the week already, so hope you're good. Had a good start as well.
Yeah, same thing here. It's just been busy weeks all year so far, but I think that speaks to the space that we're in, the whole self-sovereign identity space. I think both of us are quite excited about the direction it's going in and the potential it has to really take off in 2021.
Exactly. Same view here.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for doing this. For the folks that maybe don't know you, do you mind giving a little bit of an introduction on yourself, Andre, and the company you represent, esatus?
Yes, absolutely. And thanks for inviting me to this podcast. I'm Andre Kudra. I'm one of the board members of esatus AG. I'm in the space of information security since the turn of the millennium, basically, and esatus is also in that space. We are very active in the domain of identity and access management and everything related to that. We also do governance, risk, and compliance work in the information security sector and so on. I'm personally I'm not an IT guy per education, but at heart. So I have a business degree and a doctorate in business administration, and I'm a long-term advocate of self-sovereign identity, so to say. So my company is active in that space since it dates back to 2015. In fact, so we have worked in the SSI space with a heavy exposure since 2016. I have written a lot of papers in German. So we are here based close to Frankfurt in Germany. So I have quite a track record of publishing stuff about SSI in German. Went to quite a number of conferences here and tried to promote the benefits of SSI quite early on, because I felt it was the path ahead for the mess that we are seeing in the identity and access world. So I'm a big fan. I'm a big early on fan, and my company has supported the activities there. We have continuously grown our team for SSI folks. And to be exact, we have now turned from a mainly consulting-driven company and software development company to a product company. We have developed our own solution for identity and access management based on self-sovereign identity technology. So the future for us is well paved with verifiable credentials and DIDs and all that good stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I think the future is quite bright. And so I think both of our companies have had similar trajectories, I would say, where both of us were in the consulting space. And I think both got excited with self-sovereign identities in the respective areas we were in. So yourself in InfoSec identity and access, and us just coming from the decentralized solutions consulting space. I think a light bulb went off in both of our heads a little while back. And I would say probably you a bit earlier if you guys were thinking about this since 2015. But self-sovereign identity and verifiable credentials and DIDs seemed like really something that is needed to take us in the next evolution of internet transactions and trust on the internet and trust within systems within an enterprise and so forth. I'm just, did you ever consider writing a book on this stuff, being in the position you're in Germany? And Obviously, I know all the different organizations that you're a part of and your contributions there. Is this something that interests you at some point?
Yeah, it definitely is. And in fact, I have contributed a bit to Drummond Reed's a book that's in the pipeline. You probably all know about the major SSI book that's coming our way. I've written a chapter about identity and access management. I think it will be available in the online version. So I'm, as you said, and I'm not only the board member of esatus AG. I wear many different hats. I have to be a little bit cautious where I'm wearing which one. So I'm also a trustee of the Sovereign Foundation. My company esatus AG is one of the early day stewards. So we are founding steward of Sovereign, and we are the first one who had a node in Germany. We are also active in the sovereign community in many different working groups. One of my board colleagues is now also a member of the technical governance board of Sovereign. We are also a founding and steering member of Trust Over IP Foundation. So this makes us very proud. So this is the first year of the foundation, and there's so many great deliverables coming our way. And yeah, we are very active also in the MyData community. MyData is a global movement promoting an open and individual-centric data economy, so that you are in control of your personal data and have the decision power to decide where it's going and where not. So we are advocating SSI in this MyData community. And I'm also a board member of the German IT security association Teletrust, just recently since end of last year. So in all these different functions, it well, even if I don't actively pursue it, it often comes back to discussing SSI matters and decentralized data economy and how we can make digitalization really work. So I'm in fact very eager to promote these thoughts in all these different organizations if the topic comes up, and necessarily I think this is something that we need for anything that is related to digitalization. So I'm not only an entrepreneur in that sense, in that space, even though the company is around for many years more. I feel myself as a bridging function between all these communities, so that they are able to be involved in SSI and can integrate it into their own thinking. Yeah, so that's basically what I'm up to. And yeah, I'm trying to put a couple of these things in writing once in a while. I have not embarked on a full book. Maybe it's a good idea to at least translate some of the SSI standard book that's coming out soon into German. So that's a good idea, Matthew. We can take it up.
Yeah, maybe you'll do the German version and I could do the French version. I think been having similar thoughts here, being in Canada, with French being one of the two national languages here. That there's a lot of opportunities to really put the stuff in various languages. And you know, honestly, all these contributions that you're doing, I honestly don't know how you keep up with all these things, but it's just incredible what you guys have been doing. And it really, I think both you and I advocate for the need for collaboration and the need for bringing more and more people into here. And these decentralized technologies are only going to be as strong as the respective ecosystems that come with it. So it's just tremendous work that that you're doing overall to really advocate for this stuff and teach people and bring folks into it. And I'm happy to be doing some of this work with you inside of the Trust Over IP as well. One of the little contributions that we're trying to do overall to grow the whole space. So I guess just taking a step back, you being in the InfoSec space, working a lot with identity and access management and doing consulting around there. What were some of the, I guess this is the best way to learn or to think about new solutions, is when you're actually practicing something and you're identifying all sorts of problems. It seems like that's the space that you definitely came from. So what were some of the triggers inside of the work that you and esatus was doing in identity and access management and in general InfoSec, where you said, hey, wait a second, there needs to be a better way of doing this? And what are some of these problems that kind of led you towards decentralized identity?
Yeah, I think this is an excellent story to tell. I always felt the customers which we address, and these are usually enterprise organizations with tens of thousands of employees. They are stuck in a basically never-ending nightmare of interwoven complex identity and access landscapes. So to be exact, these companies, they don't employ just one solution. They often have 5, 10 different, maybe 15 different identity and access related products that they try to make work together somehow. And this usually doesn't work. So they have tried to tailor their own bespoke identity and access landscape to address their very particular needs, often in regulated industries like the financial sector, because they had to do something, they had to solve a certain audit requirement to just well fix something that was broken in one space, and then they decided to buy another product for it, and then they realized, oh, this is now related to identity and access management. So this was an ever ongoing circle of trying to solve that identity and access space for good, which didn't work out. So they kind of increased their complexity while trying to save the same problem, to solve the same problem over and over again. So when I was never happy with this projects and being a consultant in that space, I always felt obliged to try to make the life of my client easier, but it was so complicated because sometimes we were brought in because they want to solve something and they said, well, we have bought this product, can you help us integrate? And we usually said yes, but have you considered doing it with the stuff you already have? But sometimes it was too late, and sometimes they already had allocated the budget and all this. You probably know this from the work with your clients. So it was cumbersome, and it is still cumbersome. And when I ran into SSI early on, I said, wow, with this, we have the opportunity to cut certain components out of this identity and access lifecycle without making the situation any worse from a feature perspective, but cutting so much complexity away. And this may sound very, very abstract now, but we can make it more tangible. So if you go to an organization and you start to work there and you need to be onboarded, so you have this process called onboarding, and which requires you have to request the access rights to every single system that you want to use or need to use. And you often do not know all the systems, you don't know all the processes that you have to go through to order the access, and you certainly don't have any idea how long it will take. Otherwise, you would have asked yourself the question, am I up to it? Am I up for it? So we have done a lot of these projects, and with SSI, we have now the opportunity to cut all these kind of cumbersome processes to a great extent, and even remove certain items of the identity and access lifecycle. And for this example that I've given for the onboarding, we have come up with a solution where you just formulate a rule which gives you access to the application, which can be underpinned by SSI attributes out of verifiable credentials, which basically give you access because you have you are in a certain function or role in the organization, and the application knows if you're approaching and you can prove you're in the function, you will be let in. So the easiest example is if I prove to our own wiki system, which we use, it's a standard product from Atlassian called Confluence. You probably all know it. We have equipped it with a rule and said anyone who can prove he's an employee of esatus AG can access the system. And how do I prove this? Because everyone, when she or he joins the company, is equipped with a credential, which is called employee credential, which states she or he is a member of esatus AG. And then in the next second, she just presents this credential to the application, and the application knows, okay, I can let her in. And this is the beauty of it. And it can be much more complex from a rule perspective, but still easy to grasp for people, because they know if I prove to the application I am a sales manager, I'm an IT developer, I'm the HR guy, and I work for the company, the application will let me in because the rule says so. And with this, we have a powerful tool at hand to make life easier for everyone involved, the organization, because less complexity is required to maintain the systems, the decision takers in the companies, because they know they have something that is future-proof, and the end user, because he doesn't have to struggle with the complex processes anymore. It's just feeling so much more natural, and giving us the tools at hand to port this natural proving of something you are to a certain scenario in a digital way to access applications. So this was a long speech, but I think it all boils down to, we have a great chance to cut complexity, to throw out lots of cluttered architectures, and make the life for everyone involved easier, particularly the end user, because he just does natural stuff, or stuff that feels natural to him.
Yeah, it's amazing that you, at least this use case that you just described, that you use internally at esatus anyways to begin with. So I love the stories too of companies or organizations that are eating their own dog food at the same time as they're trying to push these products to market. And I'm sure your whole company becomes nice beta users for this type of thing before it goes out.
Absolutely, yeah. I just to add to this, but we obviously started right away for ourselves to do it, and we have also some nice little rollout documentation for people to read, and also video illustrating how we did that on our own. But we are working with a lot of customers, and not all of them can be publicly named, but we can maybe post some links of customers who are in fact now public, and are known that they have at least are either experimenting with SSI technology or are rolling it out productively. So I think that this kind of lighthouse projects help us to foster the momentum and show to everyone, look, this is not just a laboratory technology. This can be used and can be practically applied. So I totally second what you said in the beginning. I think this is a great year for SSI, because we see so much movement, not people talking about it and thinking it's a good idea. They embark on projects and get stuff going and show it and demonstrate the viability of the whole technology space.
Totally. And so if we just take a look at your onboarding of a new employee use case that you've implemented, and I'm sure you've implemented with customers as well. So as an employee, if I'm being onboarded to a new organization, I need to request, or I need to have access and authorization to access different functions and features within various enterprise systems. You named Confluence being one. Like if I'm a developer, it could be Jira. If I'm anyone in the company, it could be Slack, for example, if we're using that as a messaging platform within the company.
Yeah.
So just the process from an employee standpoint is, for an employee joining your company, what they would do is they would use the esatus wallet, which allows them to connect with esatus, I guess, build a direct connection with esatus. It allows them to receive a credential, like the employee credential from esatus. Then they're able to use this stuff to access the systems. But does the way it work is the credential that the employee is using to access the system kind of the outer layer? Or do you still need to talk to the existing SSO system or the existing IAM systems that are underneath? Like, how do you guys look at that?
Yeah, I was omitting a bit of the technical underpinnings of how this all works. So in fact, we have not tailor-made solutions for the Atlassian products or any other products or Slack or whatever. We are leveraging existing identity and access protocols. So there is obviously modern applications, and also not so modern ones, usually have some kind of capability to working with existing identity and access management tools and platforms. So what we have done is we have integrated standard gateways to these common protocols. So you can connect an application that has a SAML connector. You can connect with OAuth 2 or OpenID Connect. We can also provision to any type of LDAP directory which can be an Active Directory, which is quite common, or any other type of LDAP directory. We can provision in a database if that's how an application manages the access rights. So we basically put the solution in the middle of acting like an identity provider, or kind of providing the underlying functionality that the application needs and talks by default. So we are not doing something new. You don't have to go through development cycles for an applications. We just provide the standard mechanism for authentication and authorization that the application knows by default. And this is how we built the bridge. So we are looking at, on the one side, on the SSI side, so the future side, we're looking at credentials and attributes coming out of credentials. And on the other side, we call it the classic side. Some of my colleagues call it the legacy side. So I prefer the classic term, because I think these standard protocols will be around for quite a while. We look from both perspectives. So one on the SSI side and one on the existing side of applications. And in the middle, we have set the product, which we call Self. This name may change, but nevertheless, it's like an IDP in the middle, and at its core we have this rule engine. Exactly what I said. You tell the application if the user proves is a member of Northern Block or esatus AG, then he will be let in. And this kind of rules we make easy to formulate for an admin person or for the application owner, and he can just define these rules, and the rest will automatically happen. So it's not cumbersome at all. It's fully configurable. You don't have to code. You just provide the necessary strings for connecting the application to the backend, to the Self backend, and to determine the credentials you want to use, and that's it. And then you're all set.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then from it seems like a good story, and we definitely see that as well for organizations, that like it's great to think that, hey, I could use SSI and verifiable credentials to do all sorts of processes, but it's also impossible to think that an organization that has invested millions of dollars or whatever inside of their InfoSec systems and their identity and access management systems are going to throw that away too. So I really like how there's kind of that, there's an intersection there where you're able to talk to what's there and what's existing there without touching it. But on the outside, when it's all about the employee or the customer's experience, you're able to make it faster, you're able to lower friction, you're able to make these processes more scalable, and ultimately it could become more secure as well, I assume.
It is more secure as well, because we are getting also rid, obviously, in the same go of usernames and passwords, because you just don't need them anymore. The brilliance is we can even run the classic and the new in parallel. So for some organizations, we have just equipped a certain department with a new functionality, and they download the wallet app. They can, by the way, not only use our wallet app, but any other Aries compliant wallet app, and basically do the good stuff. So you just, at the point where you usually log in, you give the possibility to use an alternative authentication provider, and you can basically run both in parallel. So those people that are already equipped with the new stuff can use the new stuff, and the others can use the old stuff, or they can even change. But I think if they are used to having the convenience of the new solution, they will opt for the new solution. So you can even gradually transition from your old setup to a new setup without having a big bang approach and all the problems that may come with such one.
Right. And I guess my next question here, I don't know how deep you want to go into it, because I'm sure some of this is proprietary, or maybe proprietary within esatus. But when you talk about integrating today into existing systems to then tomorrow potentially move away from these systems and having more of a direct connection with applications, so really using the user's wallet as a decentralized IDP and directly gaining access and stuff to systems, there's one type of organization or one industry that potentially gets threatened with this, and this is the whole identity and access management space and the providers here. I would be curious to know kind of from your experience, and because you obviously have relationships with some of these companies coming from the consulting space. Do you work directly with them? How do they see this whole thing? Do they feel threatened? Like what's been your whole experience working with these existing IAM vendors?
Yeah, let's start with the facts. I think the IAM market globally is $1 billion market. So there's a lot of players who earn a lot of money with these solutions that they provide today, be it products or services, which are all based on the fact that organizations have to maintain their complex landscape. So they pay lots of license fees, lots of maintenance fees, and lots of money and people to maintain this whole architecture. So there's lots of people who earn lots of money with these inefficiencies. So obviously, everyone who understands that the SSI and the merits of SSI are basically sawing at these branches of complexity will see this as a threat. And this is exactly what we see from our interactions with the vendors. We have in fact entertained lots of offers and discussions with the existing IAM vendors, and you just type it in your search engine of your choice, and you will find the usual suspects. So most of them said it's interesting, but we are not interested at this point. And basically, there were no shows in any further discussions because I had the feeling they didn't want to incorporate these ideas at this point. At some point, they may have just no other choice than to do it, because SSI is ultimately open, interoperable, and is compatible to all the stuff that's out there. So you cannot ignore it forever. So if an organization or a customer approaches you and tells you, look, I want to make this work with your product, how do I do it? And he just objects and says it doesn't work, then it's just not the truth, because it will work, and it will be integratable into existing architectures. In fact, it's all there. You just have to do it. If you want to do it, you can do it today. So you can use our stuff, or you can also use other solutions. And this again is also the brilliance of it, because if it works with your verifiable credentials, you could even basically swap the whole underlying architecture with your custom-made stuff or with another vendor product that does the same, because you're still working with the data that you're working with anyways. It's stored in the verifiable credentials. So it's just what you make out of it. And we are making an identity and access solution out of it, but you may use it for other stuff where you just want to do one particular thing and you just don't need the whole IAM solution scope for it. But you can, in fact, make it work with the existing landscape. And yes, the existing players, I think they are now seeing that this is coming, because if you look at all the conferences and all the articles being published, this is not a niche topic anymore. This is going mainstream. People are talking about it. The IT savvy folks understand the benefits, and now it's basically everywhere. It's also on the tables of big corporates and at high level political decision takers.
I think we're seeing the whole movement for decentralization in general. Like it gets spearheaded a lot, it seems, by the whole crypto space, and there's I think we're seeing it there in the crypto space. We're seeing it kind of people are thinking more and more about decentralization as an option for stuff like social media, for example. And I think people are starting to think about it more and more for business processes within organizations, but also business processes in and between different organizations and vendors and partners and stuff like that. And that's definitely where self-sovereign identity truly shines. And I think I echo your thoughts that it is ready to deploy today. And I have actually seen that there are some larger vendors. I'm not sure if it was Okta or something, but they're starting slowly to talk about decentralized identity, or putting out an article here and there. But you definitely know that people are thinking about it, and its popularity is growing overall. So it's being presented in conferences. Another thing that I guess I've seen a lot more over the past few years that's been getting more and more popular. And I'm sure if we did a Google Trends search on this, we'd probably see that it's been rising in popularity. But it's the whole concept of zero trust.
Yes.
And so, do you mind for folks listening, just kind of giving just a brief overview of what zero trust is? Why is this becoming such a popular framework or method that companies are looking to implement? And how does SSI play into this model? Does it complement it? Does it do similar things? How do you look at that?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I think if we are coming from the security domain, you're familiar with these terms like perimeter protection and like the old school things. You want to maintain your firewall and only let stuff in and out that you like. So I think with the paradigm of zero trust, it has become evident for everyone within the security industry and also outside of it that basically this perimeter thing is no longer valid. So you have to assume that you have an attacker already within your perimeter, within your closed and own shop, or if he's not there, he can get there with reasonable amount of time just by social engineering, whatever. So the understanding is that you cannot basically trust anything that's inside your perceived perimeter or outside of it. So you basically have to consider asking for certain authentication before any type of asset, data store, feature, or tool is used. So if you think it's worth protecting, you have to consider increasing the trust level at the point where this decision has to be made. So before any type of asset of the company, like a system, like your laptop or your PC or your wiki system is accessed, you have to make a reasonable amount of assurance so that you know that the person who is accessing it is in fact eligible. So this is the kind of paradigm that we are looking at. You basically cannot trust anything, or you have to increase the trust level at the point where actually the access happens. So, and this is exactly what we can facilitate now with self-sovereign identity. We can basically use the facts that we have about users, which are stored in the verifiable credentials, to make them present just the right amount of stuff that we need for the assurance that he or she is eligible to access a certain resource. So this can be, in the easy example that we have used in the beginning, just you have to prove you're a member of the company. Sometimes this may not be enough. If you want to access a certain resource that is just in the wiki system for managing the sales pipeline, you may have to prove additionally that you're a sales manager and you need a different type of validation, different type of credential with a different attribute to prove that. In some cases, if you want to close a contract, you may even need more validation, like your name and address, and maybe you even need a state-issued identity credential that gives you the power to sign a contract via digital means, so that you basically step up the authentication and ultimately authorization with the attributes that you have to provide. And as you see what we can do with SSI, that it contains that you have verifiable credentials which contain attributes about yourself, which have been attested by another party, so that you can use them anywhere, shows how this is ideally suited to fulfill these zero trust paradigm with this kind of on-the-fly step-up provisioning of information items that give you access. Yeah, so I hope that makes it a little bit transparent that this is definitely not in contradiction, but to be exact, to very much aligned, that the zero trust paradigm is absolutely fulfillable with the self-sovereign identity technology that we have at hand.
Yeah, so it's a mechanism that facilitates achieving a zero trust paradigm within an organization. And
Absolutely.
there are others, and there are others that we see, I guess, through different identity and access management systems that are trying to fulfill the zero trust paradigm. But self-sovereign identity fits quite nicely into there, and so it fits quite nicely into there. And the thing with SSI is like you go down the board on the privacy by design principles, the security by design principles. Um, it's just superior in a lot of different ways.
Agreed. Yeah, we didn't go into that detail. You have the possibility, obviously, which is also a requirement of selective disclosure. So you don't present the full magnitude of attributes in a credential. You just present what you are asked for, and then you still have the decision power. Do you want to share this information? You can even do this good stuff like zero knowledge proof, where you and using this example, you don't disclose your birth date if you want to prove that you're above a certain age. So all this good stuff is possible with zero knowledge proof type credentials. Selective disclosure is probably something that is much more needed and in use at these days, because this is exactly how it also works in our example. So our employee credential holds more information than just the attribute employed by company esatus. It includes the starting date, maybe a fixed end date, if the person if the contract is limited in the time perspective. It contains certain other attributes, but if we want to take a decision, if the person is able to access the resource, we just ask for this one line. Are you employed by esatus AG? And that's it.
It's the whole selective disclosure, and also like we talked about the movement of decentralization, but there's it's tied in very closely as well with the movement of privacy and privacy by design solutions too. So something like selective disclosure, we're seeing, and I'm sure you're seeing too, it's a nice selling point on its own to say, hey, you could really improve the customer experience if you're using this type of thing with your customer or employees or whoever you're dealing with, right? To really be able to um, give them confidence through transparency, and give them confidence through their ability to control what they're sharing and to know what they're sharing. Um, the world seems to be moving that way, and I think that where you guys are located in Germany, being within the EU and the different frameworks and laws that are being pushed forward, and some of the data privacy laws like the GDPR, and there's a lot of other ones that I guess we could get into, different frameworks. I guess self-sovereign identity falls in quite nicely there as well. And from what I've learned from you, is it seems like the government in Germany is really buying into this stuff as well. And so I guess my question from this is, me being in Canada, and there's folks listening to this that are a little throughout the world, folks like ourselves that are really trying to push for decentralized identity and to really grow the ecosystem within our respective countries. How and why has the German ecosystem kind of grown at the speed which it has grown so far, and what is really brought in? Because there's tons of government organizations and there's tons of large companies that have kind of joined this whole ecosystem and this mission for decentralized identity. So do you mind just talking about why? Is there something in the water in Germany that people are drinking that is pushing them towards this?
Well, actually, I think there's many aspects to that. Let's maybe start with the whole crypto thing that has been happening in Germany quite early on. And I'm not saying SSI has a terrible lot to do with crypto, but I think we have a strong kind of blockchain DLT type ecosystem of people and companies, which kind of fueled the SSI ecosystem as well. So I think in general, there's a huge thrive for innovation, even if we see that in some areas not really to a great extent, but in some areas we really see it. So we have a vibrant ecosystem of innovative companies, particularly in the blockchain and DLT space. So I think this kind of helped to foster the discussion around this, and also build showcases that this stuff works really early on. And this was in the end also recognized by venture capitalists and political decision takers, because it was an ever growing communication stream towards these decision takers. Look, there is some stuff coming your way. You want to be prepared. Do you want to join, and so on. So I think this this resulted in the fact that it was realized and recognized, and some major things happened in Germany. So basically, I think we have a couple of different streams now underway. So the one that is probably often talked about and widely recognized is everything that's coming out of the funded projects by the Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs, called showcase projects about secure digital identity. And they have issued a funding proposal to basically everyone who is in that space, and called for a competition of 6 months to propose solutions in the digital identity space. And we had a whole lot of SSI type solutions being proposed in that competition phase. There were 11 projects, and now it boiled down to being 3 or 4 in the end, who are funded for 3 years with each of a budget of 15 million euro in the consortium. So we have now, and it boiled down to 4 projects in the end. We have now 4 projects which are co-funded by the Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs, and at least 2 of the 3 are dedicated to promoting SSI and showing that it works. And one of these projects is called ID Union. You may have heard about this. This kind of originated in the work that was early on done by a company called Main Incubator. They are a subsidiary company of Commerzbank, and they proposed a couple of years back the LISI project, which kind of produced one of the first self-sovereign identity wallet apps. And this was also continued a little bit on the side. However, this led to the fact that we got together in the competition phase for this economic ministry-backed project called SSI for Germany. So we had a small consortium which basically transitioned all the work there, and where we were a part of. And now we are rebranding again and calling it ID Union. And ID Union is not just the name of the project, it's also the name of a Hyperledger Indy-based test network that has been created in the competition phase of the project. So this is one of the major work streams, ID Union, with its test network, which is going to be transitioned to cooperative legal entity model and running a production network. And in parallel, the state-funded project of the Ministry of Economic Affairs, also being called ID Union. But this is just one of the bigger things. We have another thing going on, which is driven by public sector organizations. It's called Gov Digital, and they are planning to provide blockchain and DLT-based services dedicated to the public sector. They also have in their roadmap to create a Hyperledger Indy-based network at some point in time. I'm not deeply involved in that. As said, it's basically completely run by public sector players, and so data center providers and so on from the public sector. So they're doing a great job of advocating that. And I think at some point they will also come up with a Hyperledger Indy-based project. And now coming to the major thing that's going on, you probably or maybe have heard that in the highest political decision taker circles in Germany, the topic of digital identity came up last year, and it culminated to a meeting run by Angela Merkel in the beginning of December last year, inviting C-level representatives of 18 companies, and there's a public communication on the Bundesregierung website to discuss the future of digital identity. And in this meeting, they also covered self-sovereign identity. And this led to the fact that everyone thought this is a good idea. We need to do something about it, because this is maybe a differentiating factor for us here in Germany and Europe overall, and to kind of be able to counterbalance what's going on in the rest of the world. So they said it's such a good idea that we are now embarking on a project together with a pilot for a certain use case based on hyperledger Indy technology, which is currently underway. I cannot tell you a terrible lot about the details of that project. We are looking at it because we are also part of ID Union, and obviously this is going in alignment with what's happening in ID Union and the other projects, and what the Chancellor's office is doing. But I think there is such a great momentum with what they started end of last year, which will have a huge visibility when they come up and go live with a pilot. And I know that there are more pilots planned than just the one that's underway now. So this year will be basically full of pilots being driven by the Chancellor's office, and in conjunction with players from the German and European SSI ecosystem. So I think this is very, very well important and a lighthouse for getting SSI on track. And obviously everyone is looking closely at what these people are doing there. And I have really high hopes that this will fuel the SSI ecosystem and the whole momentum here in Germany and broader Europe tremendously.
Yeah, well, I could say here in Canada, we're looking quite closely at everything that's being achieved in Germany. I mean, we have great community here as well, a big blockchain DLT community. So you definitely see a lot of this stuff kind of sped up, and it's a different way of thinking, right? When you start thinking about just the decentralized models. And so folks that come from the blockchain and DLT space, it makes sense quicker. But, we're lucky here in Canada that the governments are making investments into this stuff as well, but it's really significant and people should really look at, and we'll link some of these projects in the show notes if people are interested in looking a little more into what's happening in Germany. But Germany's just really a leader in the space. For folks listening that if they're looking to deploy stuff in Germany, I think there's lots of resources we could point to, stuff in Canada as well. We could point to a lot of stuff for people in other countries in the world that really want to push self-sovereign identity forward or decentralized identity forward in their respective countries. If their public sector and various governments aren't making the same investments or the same prioritizations as, say, Germany or Canada, are there some low-hanging fruits for entrepreneurs or innovators that are looking to really push this forward? Could SSI see traction in a place without government involvement?
I think it could. As you see here in Germany, we're having different streams, right? So we are not. This is not completely aligned, and not everything is doing the exact same thing. So as you see, we have GovDigital addressing the public sector. We have ID Union basically attracting lots of businesses and variety of players. We have these other activity going on from the Chancellor's office team. So I think this will in the end need some alignment, and will need to pull the strings together and also bring together what's happening in broader Europe, like EPSI and ESIF. And there's you probably are aware of the other initiatives that are going on in Finland, for example, with Findi, in Austria with Meine sichere ID. There's different streams going on, but as they are now recognizing, there's stuff happening in the same areas, so they are all eager to collaborate and get these things together. So I think for entrepreneurs who want to be active in that space, there's a great opportunity to leverage this momentum that's growing there. And I'm particularly also looking in your direction in Canada, because I know the ecosystem is very strong there as well. And in fact, I think the political people have made requests to be connected to one another to talk about these projects. So I have quite a hope that this will also lead to something that is beneficial to all of us. So I think as SSI is open, it's basically everyone can put services on top of it. So even for GovDigital, for example, which is dedicated to public sector partners, they may decide to let private companies offer their services on their chain at some point, on their DLT. So I think this is the beauty of it. that if the ecosystem is open as it is in SSI, and at least the underlying technologies are comparable. So, I mean, obviously everybody is maybe aware I'm a fan of Indy and Aries, so Hyperledger Indy and Aries are our chosen stacks at this point. So we put all our development on these technologies. However, in the end, if we have verifiable credentials as the common denominator, you can do anything with any chain and system if as long as it is based on the paradigm of verifiable credentials. So being as open as it is a great chance for everyone in the world to basically provide solutions with these parameters in mind. So if you think about, okay, I'm an expert in India and Aries, I want to build stuff on that, this is the best chance to do it. If you think, okay, I want to be a little bit broader, I want to work with verifiable credentials, nevertheless, what technology is underlying, you can do that. You can come up with a solution that is tailored around that. So there's great potential, because there is no boundaries between organizations and ultimately countries anymore. Because if we have the interoperability that we envision with SSI, then we can basically do anything from everywhere. Yeah, so I think the chances are very good that we have the innovative players who are in that field and understand these parameters and understand the technology. They can immediately expand their business beyond their so perceived home market, because it's just something that everyone needs. And I think this is something that has never been available to that extent before, because if we have this common architecture and open standards, you can basically deliver services and exchange the services without any limitations from an organizational or jurisdictional point of view.
What we tell people is exactly what you said. If you're adhering to the standards and norms that people are moving towards, it just comes down to yourself as an individual, or yourself representing a company or an organization, just understanding where you sit within the overall ecosystem of what you're trying to do. Different public entities have different roles within their existing ecosystem. They will move at their speed and they will do what they're doing, but it doesn't stop you from getting into all sorts of different use cases. And what esatus is doing is just great proofs of this, where you're able to really drastically improve user experience, whether it's of your employees and your customers using something like self-sovereign identity. And you don't necessarily need a government issued ID. Sure, that it's going to be great when these things come. It becomes another tool within the ecosystem. It becomes another piece of data that you could add on top to what you have today. But there's so much you could do today. And I think you guys are, again, great proofs of and early movers in the space, and really a company that we looked up to quite high when we first got into the space, because we really liked the way you were approaching this.
Much appreciated, and it doesn't stop there. So with the identity and access space, I think we have just done the natural progression of our work. And now with ID Union, we have numerous different use cases which basically apply the same technology, and we have we have everything. We have the full stack now available. With a little tweak here and there, we can basically address different types of use cases. So, for example, we are building now what we call a Schüler wallet, student wallet, with one of the project streams we're doing. We have worked with a local community of Langen. They provide something, it's called the Tafel, which means they provide groceries to people in need, and to do the validation that people are in fact qualified to get this this support. We have built a complete verifiable credential based solution for them with the technology that we have. It's not an identity and access use case, but it's close enough so that we can just adjust the things. And the key topic we want to achieve is to also provide these learnings back to the global community. That's one of the key reasons we are active in the global ecosystems like Sovereign and Trust over IP. So my clear goal is to get everything that we do in ID Union basically packaged and deliverable ready for Trust over IP, that others can learn from it and leverage the things that we have achieved here. And I think this is also something that is common in the German identity landscape, that people are eager to contribute and make it visible and available to the rest of the world. So I think this is a great position and a great collaboration among all involved.
That's fantastic. Andre, for people that are looking to get in contact with you or your company or looking to contribute to the space, where can people find you?
Well, you can look at our website, esatus.com, esatus.com. We also have a Twitter account for esatus and for esatus self, or you can reach out to me personally. I think if you Google my name, Andre Kudra, in LinkedIn or in one of the other social networks, you come across myself. You can also put in the show notes my email address and my Twitter account so that people can have a way to connect. So we are always looking forward to entertain discussions and work with you on your solutions. And again, I very much appreciate that you are having me in your podcast series. I'm a bigger fan of your work, and I enjoy so much collaborating in the space on the Trust OLP and everywhere we ran into each other. So I think this is a very fruitful relationship, and I look forward to many great projects together.
Likewise, Andre. Okay, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. To stay up to speed with future episode releases, please subscribe to the podcast on whatever channel you're listening to it right now. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me directly. You can find me online. I'm quite active on LinkedIn and Twitter, so I look forward to hearing from you. See you all next time.